but I will not let anyone take it from me. Jesus was a man of prayer. Did he care about the people? No one cared about the people like our lowly Jesus. What's the greatest thing that he can do? Remain in his communion with the Father. Be a man of God. Politicians are known to be a man of the people. We are not to be a man of the people. We are to be a man of God who goes to the people. That's the difference between church growth and preaching. Church growth goes out there and takes all kinds of studies on people, their desires, their wants, and everything else, and then they take God's truth and they conform it to the wants and desires of the people. Preaching and the prophetic ministry of the preacher doesn't ask the opinion or wants or whims of the people at all. He dwells with God and just finds out what God wants the people to know and then goes and tells them whether they want to hear it or not. That's the difference. To be a man of God. He dwelt alone with God. And he dwelt alone with God in the times when he was most busy. And when all pragmatism and practicality would have said, you don't have time for this today. Maybe some other day you can pray more and catch up. I think it was Martin Luther who said, I have so much work to do today that I must pray at least 3 hours or I'll never get done. That is so different from us today. Now, when I speak about prayer, I want you to know something. Many people, when they think about prayer, the only thing they think about is intercession and lists. Because in all those discipleship notebooks we've got lists of things that we're supposed to pray about. My dear friend, intercession is extremely important. But intercession is not the same thing, or is not all there is to do with prayer. Intercession is maybe a small thing of what prayer really is. Prayer is communion with God. It is a desire to be with God. And yes, at times that can mean reading a wonderful thing written by John Bunyan and meditating in it. But be careful. Why? Because pretty soon, many times, because our flesh somehow sees that as easier, would rather have us sit there and learn something from John Bunyan than just sit there and be quiet before God. Prayer. There is a sense in which we should pray continually, Paul tells us. But there's also a sense in which I should be with my wife continually. But that does not mean that I do not separate special times to be with my wife primarily, and to direct all my focus upon her. We talk about David Brainerd. I mean, my goodness, if we had a saint in evangelicalism, it might be him. But look at his life, not just his theology. And also wonder, do you have his theology if it does not create in you the same thing it created in him? Here was a man who would lay himself out on a log in a deep snowfall and cry out to God all night. You see, any little boy can read a book by John Piper and begin to start preaching on the glory of God. But have you earned the right to preach on that? Has the glory of God become a reality in your life? Anyone can say, I have the same theology as Jonathan Edwards, but does it cause you to tarry with God as Jonathan Edwards did? I can teach parrots Reformed theology. I can teach parrots all these magnificent truths. I'm supposed that a parrot could, learn Amazing Grace. But that doesn't make any of that a reality in his life. In our fear of being led by the subjective, in our fear of not being biblical, in our fear of looking like charismatics, I think we have truncated our relationship with God and turned it into nothing more than correct theology, correct thinking. But is it not Jonathan Edwards himself and other great scholars of the Puritan faith who had such experiences with God that they thought that their life would be taken away, that they prayed and asked God to hold His hand off of them lest they die, that they broke forth with such joy unspeakable? You see, there's a relationship there, and it's a supernatural, real relationship with God. Do you realize that God at this moment is present in all His fullness in this room? But God could manifest His presence in this room to such a degree that every one of you would be laying on the ground weeping over your sin. Or every one of you literally overcome with such joy in the grace of God. Do you realize that? Or has your Christianity just become correct thinking? Jesus was a man of prayer, and it wasn't just intercession. God is not some cosmic slot machine that if we pull at His lever enough times we're going to get what we want. Prayer is not just duty. It's not just something I do because it's the right thing to do. Someone asked me one time when I got home said, "What are you going to do, Brother Paul, when you get home from Romania?" I said, "I'm going to kiss my wife." They said, "What are you going to do next?" I said, "I'll put my luggage down." But if I walked up to my wife and I come home on Monday and I walk up to her and I kiss her, give her a big hug, and she says, "Well, what's that all about?" And I pull out this book and I say, "Well, in manual, page 32 of the Good Husband's Manual, it says directly upon meeting with my wife after a long journey, I should give her a kiss." She's going to take that manual and she's going to feed it to me. She does not want my bare obedience to a right thing to do. She could care less about my morality at that stage. And you need to understand something. The Christian life is not morality. It's not just a bunch of right things we do to be a right group of people. Christianity is about passion. Well, yeah, we need to pray, Brother Paul. We need to intercede. No, that's not what I said. I said we need to pray. I didn't say we needed to intercede. Yeah, we need to cry out to God. He'll bring revival. No, maybe we just need to tell God how much we love Him. Maybe we need to walk out there and look at that corn and say, "God, it is an amazing thing you can make these kernels do what they do." I always tell the young interns, I say, when you're walking through a field and you can look down at a mud puddle and see a bunch of tadpoles swimming down around in that mud puddle, and it causes you to fall on your knees and worship God with reverence, you're walking with God. He was a man of prayer. And I think it's very, very important here that it doesn't tell us about how he prayed, just that he was praying there. I think the emphasis here is that he departed from men. He departed from the ministry. He departed from even the need. And he went not necessarily to resolve some specific purpose. He went to be with his Father. How did I know that I wanted to marry my wife? Because I just wanted to be with her. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to go anywhere. There didn't have to be a purpose or a plan or a program. I just wanted to be there. Isn't it amazing? When was the last time you thought, I want to be with God. I just want to be with Him. I don't even necessarily want to learn anything. I don't necessarily want to learn a deep truth that I can go back and preach in some conference so that everybody will know how smart I am. I don't want to learn something flashy. I don't want to, I just don't. I just want to be with God. Isn't that amazing?